Hi folks, thanks for joining me once again. Today we're looking at the UWELL Crown 5 Sub-Ohm tank. This is the latest from UWELL, following on from the Crown 1, 2, 3 and 4. This one, 29mm, triple airflow, and also makes use of the UN2 coils. Let's crack on. And that was the Crown 5 tank by UWELL, number 5, fifth of its kind, fifth version. Now, I've actually never tried any of the Crown tanks previously. I also heard good things about the Crown 3, not so much the 4, but the Crown 3 I heard really good things about. But the thing about the Crown tank is they've got a long history, and they're also responsible for quite a lot of improvements in the history of Sub-Ohm tanks. So let's find out about this one. As you can see, I got the silver and black version, which I think, looking at it with this bubble glass on, I really like the look at it. Now, it is a 29mm at the base. Of course, that goes out a little bit thanks to this bubble glass. So we'll start right at the top with this 510, traditionally 510 drip tip from the Crown series. Very comfortable. As much as it is a 510 connection, it feels almost 810ish on the mouth, if that makes any sense. Nice wide drip tip considering it's 510, really comfortable. I like the length of it, very nice, and looks very smart, matches the rest of the tank really nicely. The top cap is where it all goes on. Now, it's kind of got one of them twist 90-degree turn top caps, but it also spins freely when it's in place, and there's a bit of a movement to it. But yes, you have to kind of push and twist and make sure you sometimes hold on to the barrel. More on that shortly. And you get your fill port there. Fairly easy to fill up. Now, I have noticed, especially with the 2mm straight glass, it's quite tricky to fill up because of that small capacity and the quite big coils. You're gonna have to take your time filling it up because it's very easy to spurt that e-liquid out of the top. So take your time if you're going to be filling this with the straight glass on. Strongly advise you get a bubble glass. More on that later. Carrying on from there, you have this triple adjustable airflow, which has got a nice restriction to it, a nice tension, and also nicely nailed thanks to these multiple V's that are all the way around the top and the bottom. When it comes to the internals, fit, feel and finish, very nice. Everything screws together nice, everything threads together very well. And as much as I'm not the biggest fan of this kind of childproof cap and the fact that this is loose, it's all held on really well. Fits together really nice. Now, this construction is mostly stainless steel as well, which is good. My one gripe is definitely to do with this top cap. First of all, spinning so freely and loosely. And when you actually unlock that, if you don't hold the bubble with your other finger, you might just see I'm turning the bubble as well while trying to release that. So slowly, if you haven't noticed, you're going to be loosening up the inner chamber, and eventually you're going to have a bit of a flood on your hands. Included in the packaging is 2 coils of different varieties. The first one is the UN2 coil. This is a single mesh coil coming out of 0.23 ohms. Also in the kit is a dual mesh coil. That's a 0.3 ohms. That's the UN2-2. There's also a triple mesh coil available, the UN2-3. Do you get what's going on here? Now, they do serve different purposes according to UWELL themselves. They say that one does a bit better at this and one does a bit better at that. Across the board, I've found that all 3 coils do perform very well. However, the more coils that are inside that coil, the more airflow restriction you can get. So I would strongly advise from the start, if you're going to use this for a very airy, loose, direct lung draw, look more at the single and the dual coil mesh as opposed to the triple mesh, because the triple mesh coil just limits that airflow a bit. I've got the UN2 single mesh coil installed here. I've got it at an unusually low 55 watts. It is recommended at 65 to 70 watts. 0.27 is what it reads on here, although it does say it's a 0.23 ohm coil. Airflow open, let's give it a little bash. I've really been enjoying this coil at 55 watts. Although it's recommended at 65 to 70, we will give it a try at 70 watts. However, for some reason, at 55 watts, I've just found this a really comfortable, airy, but flavour-filled vape. Really, really nice. The sweetness from this coil, very, very good. It seems to be very good with like kind of fruity style e-liquids and drinks. Brings out that sweetness. I think part of the secret with this crown tank is definitely the 510 drip tip. The smaller that barrel, that tube going up, it's kind of forcing that flavour and that vapour through a smaller channel than it would an 810. So you're getting really, really good flavour from that as well. I really can't complain about this coil. It's also lasted really, really well. I've had this one in there for about six or 7 days around there. And I had one in there previously for about 2 weeks. So as long as you don't mix your e-liquids up and swap flavours with the same coil, you're going to get really, really good life from it as well. Couple of things to mention about the UL Crown 5 tank. First of all, the airflow. You have this triple port airflow system. I have to say across the board, regardless how you set it, it's not too loud and noisy, and it's not too airy. Even with the single mesh coil installed, I do like a airy direct lung draw, but it's not over the top. You're definitely getting a good balance of flavour and airflow. Very, very good there. They say that there's a special feature with this which will kind of stop leakage. Now, these are push fit coils from underneath, and you have to remove the bottom section to get to that coil. I haven't touched this coil in about six days. 6 days, and the coil's still going well. I'm going to remove this and we're going to see how much condensation or how much e-liquid is there. I'm looking forward to this. I'm showing you first what we're looking like. That's pretty impressive, to be fair. That's genuinely 6 days of constant daily use with the same coil, and that's pretty darn good. That's not too bad. I'm quite impressed with that, actually. So it looks like their system works. So however it works to draw condensation and excess e-liquid back into the coil seems to work really, really well. So we better try out the UN2-2 coil. So I've got the UN2-2 dual mesh coil installed. I've got it at 50 watts. Let's give it a little bash. Still decent flavour. Still decent flavour. More restrictive. I have the airflow all the way open, and there's definitely a restriction there, but it's comfortable all the way open. Now you can restrict that down a bit more. Haven't noticed it's made any difference to the actual flavour. In comparison to the UN2, the single mesh coil, I am more of a fan of the single mesh. Just find it does a better job with putting out the flavour, especially the sweetness of kind of fruity style e-liquids. Brings out a lot of that sweetness and performs really, really well. I think part of the beauty of this tank is probably to do with the 510 drip tip. The fact that you have kind of a smaller bore there than the large 810s. So you're kind of channeling that flavour and that vapour down a smaller channel. So you're getting a more enriched flavour because it's got less of a channel to go through. Really, really good. Definitely out of the two, I prefer the UN2 single mesh coil. The dual coil mesh works well at 50 watts. I have tried to round that up a little bit more. I've also gone down to kind of 40 watts to see if it was like the UN2 coil, but hasn't really made a difference. So generally my experience has been the UN2 single mesh coil is the best coil, and it is an absolute stunner. So what are my likes and dislikes with the Crown 5 tank by UWELL? Well, we'll do dislikes first because there really isn't many. Really isn't many dislikes with this whatsoever. First dislike has to be to do with this top cap. Now I get that how it works and it's childproof, but the fact that it spins and it's not locked straight in place is just a little bit annoying. It's a bit kind of wiggly and wobbly and just a tiny bit of a niggle, I suppose. Not a big deal. When it comes to filling this, if you are going to be using the straight glass, if you haven't got your hands on a bubble glass, you are going to find, especially with kind of the higher VG liquids, you're going to splodge that all over the place. Even when you have the bubble glass, it's still not too difficult to accidentally kind of spill it over, and then it'll go down into the coil and you end up having a lot of spit back. So be careful when you're filling this, especially with the 2ml capacity, but even when you get the 5ml bubble glass, you might still have an issue. Likes. Plenty of them. First of all, I like how comfortable this is to vape on. I'm really impressed with this 510 drip tip. Nice and comfortable. It's nice and tall as well, but it doesn't take away from the actual look and aesthetics of the tank itself. With the bubble glass, I even like how that looks. I think it looks really smart. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the looks of this tank. It's simple but charming, basically. Airflow wise, really, really good, smooth, nice vape. I've just preferred it all the way open for nice, airy, direct lung vape. You could tone that down a little bit and enjoy it that way. When it comes to the coils, my dislike has to be that one's better than the other. I wish they were both brilliant. The two you get in the kit, the single and the dual, the UN2 single mesh coil performs excellently. And for me, for some reason, at 55 watts, I've absolutely loved it. If you've got that coil and you haven't used it yet, or you have and you didn't enjoy it, drop the wattage down, play around a little bit. I've just found 55 watts, airflow open, absolute banger. One of the best coils for flavour from a Sub-Ohm tank that I've had in a long, long time. The dual coil UN2-2 mesh coil just didn't perform quite as well. Still decent, just not as well, regardless of where I set my wattage, where I set my airflow. Just not a big of a fan of the dual mesh. Definitely for me, the single mesh coil in this makes this tank. Not really got much else to say. It's a really, really good tank. Really nicely made. Just tiny little issues as always with these things. But overall, I hope that's helpful, folks. If it was, hit the like button or subscribe if you fancy it. Of course, you can get my latest review there. A random one there. I'm Flagger Vapor. Thanks for watching.